Welcome back to the channel, and to the wet and somehow magical Inverness in the north of Scotland. If you think I'm sounding a little funny today, you are probably correct. I have a bit of a cold. But let's not let that get in the way. Today we're going to be taking a train from Inverness down to London Euston. However, this isn't just any train service. That's right, it's the Caledonian Sleeper, and we're really excited to bring you along with us. Before we can board our train, we do have a little stop to make as we've opted for the flexible club twin room, which set us back about £300 for the cabin and 2 tickets. With that extra cost, we get lounge access. The lounge itself is located just across the street from the station. It's well signposted and looks pretty swish from the outside. On entry, you are kind of just funneled in with the rest of the guests into an officey kind of space. But it's clean enough, and the staff are really lovely when they're checking your tickets and greeting you. From there, on your left is the lounge, or off to the right, you can dip into the bathrooms for a quick shower. I decided to dip into the bathrooms first and have a look. It's pretty no frills, but they have everything you need. Toilet, sink, shower, along with the basics like shampoo, conditioner, and some other bits and pieces. I didn't quite get a chance to try out the shower, but I heard from friends that it was okay. Even if your ticket doesn't come with lounge access, you can actually buy access to the showers separately on the day. The main room is pretty no frills, sporting a fairly modern design with these octagonal tables and some comfy seating dotted around. It was pretty packed whilst we were there, and there were a couple of people standing around due to the lack of space. However, there were plenty of sockets if you want to charge up your devices or get some work done, and they're pretty easy to access too. There was also a coffee machine, however it was broken whilst we were there, so they were boiling us kettles and bringing them into the room to make instant coffee. Luckily, the tea selection they had was actually pretty nice. They did have some snacks on hand. These were ready salted crisps and some border biscuits. The border biscuits were pretty tasty, but I really felt like there probably should have been something other than just a single flavour of crisp. The only other thing on offer really was cold drinks, so we decided to settle down with some crisps, cold drinks, and a little dessert of tea and biscuits. There wasn't a lot of time for us to hang around as we arrived a little bit late. However, the staff were super helpful and friendly. One even held the door open for us as we left. To say the lounge is close to the station would be the understatement of the century. It's only about a minute's walk. I timed it. 54 seconds. Which, whilst not as good as lounges that happen to be inside of their stations, given the limited size of Inverness Station, I think this is quite a good solution. They really couldn't have got much closer. Inverness Station suffers heavily for having been rebuilt in the 1960s, however it does have a certain charm to it with its glass roof, which helps it feel light and airy during the day. There are plans for the station to be revamped, but as of yet they haven't been started. Finally, our friends from earlier rejoined us, and this gave us a chance to go have a look at the baggage storage options available on the station. The system was broken when we were there, so they had to be gotten out manually by a member of staff, but there is plenty of space. There are some basic shops around the station, but the majority of them are closed at the time the sleeper train leaves, so don't expect to be doing much pre-trip shopping there. In true British style, the next thing you do after they open up the barriers is to queue to have your tickets checked. The staff are once again super friendly and helpful when checking your tickets and telling you where your cabin is. The trains are quite new, as of only a couple of years ago, and they look pretty great from the outside. I even snuck up to the front for a quick view of the engine. They seem to take a lot of pride in the appearance of their rolling stock. It's all clean and neat with a stunning paint job. Plus, I actually really love their stag logo. And finally, it's time for us to get on board. We are staying in car M for the night. I love these screens on the ends of the carriages. They make it really easy to tell where you are on the train, and they also give you helpful little details like the current air temperature and time. There are some extra things they do show, which I'll bring up later down on the video. Whilst waiting for our friends to get set up in their room, I did manage to have a little look into one of the bathrooms. They have everything you need really: toilet, soap, water, and even a hand dryer. Plus one of the biggest mirrors I've ever seen in a train bathroom. It's a little crazy, but it works, it's fine. Now for the bit I'm sure all of you have been waiting for. What's the cabin like? Well, I managed to steal the key off Grant, who had somehow managed to beat me into the room, so excuses things already on the floor. First thing you notice is that the floor space is pretty tight. You're pretty much touching shoulders with the bed and the wall on the opposite side. There is, however, also a loo and a shower in our room, as we opted for the club upgrade. We'll have a look at this in a bit. Also, please ignore the biscuits, we may have stole a few from the lounge. Oh well. First impressions of the bed is that they look pretty clean and comfy, and they give a fair bit of room considering the confined space of the train. They have also left us with a little amenity set in the beds, which we'll have a closer look at in a bit. The sink looks very functional and quite large for the room, although I do kind of wish there was some way to convert it into a table or some kind of surface, as you'll find yourself using the sink as a sort of storage compartment, as there's not really any other options. Except for the one I found later, which you'll see what that is. Now for the full look at the bathroom. It's pretty compact as you might expect. The loo is hidden under this cover, which is a pretty ingenious use of space. The only real downside I could give to this is the fact that whenever you're having a shower, you actually end up kind of hovering over the toilet whilst you shower, which is not a comfortable experience. They do, however, once again, provide plenty of conditioner and shampoo and that sort of thing, which they also provide in the amenities kit, which seems a bit odd, but I'm glad to have it. Plus, there's towels, and there's plenty of them. Back over the top bunk, we have a light and a switch for it, as well as a switch for the room light and a handy USB socket. On the back of the door, you also have a mirror. Hello! The bottom bunk gets all the fun controls though, including the main light switch with a dimmer, a USB socket, a reading light, as well as the temperature control dial, which we had set to max the whole time. Our cabin stayed cool but fine for most of the trip, however I would warn the hallways of the train can get very cold if you're travelling in the shoulder seasons. I'm not sure though if they turn the heating on more during the winter, or if this is just how it is. At the foot of the bed, you have a switch for the window light, a button to call for the host, and 2 full-size main sockets, as well as 2 more USB sockets, plus a little nook at the side of the bed to keep your devices in. This is repeated on the top and bottom bunk. Bag storage is pretty ample, with the underbed storage being fairly easy to access. Just be sure not to obstruct these, I'm not sure what these are, vents I think? And if you're feeling brave, there's another spot under the sink where we kept one of our backpacks. The final bit of storage you might be able to use are these hooks and a hanger on the wall opposite the bed. Now let's dive into that amenities kit, which contained a lovely little collection of items, including hand and body wash, hand and body lotion, a conditioning shampoo, a pillow spray, which I did try out and smelled lovely for a few minutes on the pillow before vanishing into the ether. And for the light sleepers among you, they do also provide a face mask and some earplugs, which can help with the noise of rolling around on the train, although I honestly didn't hear very much, which was pretty nice. Plus I love the little logo they've stuck on the front of the face mask. It's kinda cute with the stag on there. It was at this point that Grant found me and reminded me that food exists, in particular the option to pick for food in the morning. If you're travelling in club, you can choose to dine in your room or in the dining car. Obviously we had to choose the club car, an absolute no-brainer. Plus you get the extra options on the menu, like the Highland breakfast, which I just had to try. After having been reminded of food, we decided it might be a good idea to go grab a dinner and some drinks whilst the train left the station. The club car is located towards the back of the train and is where dinner is served to most passengers, as well as breakfast being served to the club car and above passengers. The staff was super friendly and attentive the whole time we were in there. It was really nice to just sit down and relax a bit after such a long day. We left the station as we picked our options from the quite extensive menu. With so many options, I was almost a little overwhelmed, although, having recently tried haggis for the first time and discovered a love for it, I had to try the McSweeney's haggis, neeps and tatties, which is a traditional Scottish meal featuring haggis, turnips and potatoes. I was so close to grabbing a whiskey to go with it, but I settled on a soft drink instead. Grant went for the butternut squash sage risotto, which looked really delicious, but I was also very happy with my choice. On the way back to the cabin, I got to show off these signs again. They give quite a bit of good detail about the various places you're going to stop and some details about them, which is pretty cool. I like them. Finally, it was time to grab some sleep. I'd love to rave about what a good night's sleep we had, but unfortunately we did not fall asleep for an absolute age. This was, however, not the train's fault at all. We were just far too excited. The beds were super comfortable and plenty warm despite the chilly conditions, and the gentle rocking of the train was pretty pleasant, and it wasn't very noisy either. The window shades would have worked perfectly well for blocking out light and other things going by, but honestly, we just wanted to see out the window the whole time. It was really nice. We awoke bright and early the next morning with what I have to admit are some pretty fantastic views over the Midlands. We decided we wanted to be up early so that we could make it to the breakfast in time and still have a little bit of time to hang out and chat and things. You do get seated with other diners sometimes, and we got a really lovely couple with us the whole time we were there. They start off with drinks like juice, tea, coffee, that sort of thing. I picked apple, and Grant went for orange. I also really love these little coasters with the logo imprinted on them. They're really cute. If you're travelling solo and you're sat at the bar area, there are sockets underneath, including a USB socket for charging up your devices, if that's something you need. Finally, my pre-ordered Highland breakfast arrived, and I was not disappointed. It included a traditional Highland slice of bread, black pudding, square sausage, bacon, a fried tomato, as well as a haggis potato cheese mix, which was absolutely divine. After a little bit of relaxing at the table, we headed back to the room so we'd be ready for our arrival at London Euston. Oh, and do you remember my earlier complaint about the lack of a table? Look at what's hiding away under here, which we found moments before getting off the train. Given how carefully labelled everything else is in the room, this just feels sneaky. Plus, it's not a great spot to keep smaller items you might want out in your room area, as it takes up a bunch of your floor space. And finally, as we pull into London Euston, I think I can summarise that this was an amazing and quite unmissable experience that I'd gladly repeat in the future. The only parts I felt pulled away from the experience were simply how short the journey felt. At only a little under 12 hours, I'm sad it was over so quickly. And the second thing being that the route from Scotland down to London is a lot less interesting at this time of year, as you depart in the dark, meaning you miss the Scottish Highlands and Lowlands. And when you wake in the morning, you're already approaching London, with only the Midlands to keep you company. All in all though, I really loved this trip. The staff, train, and incredible food really made the experience all the more magical and fun. We've got more of these videos coming up pretty soon, and we're going to be taking an Amtrak Sleeper in the coming weeks. I'm excited to get to compare and contrast it. In fact, by the time you're watching this, that might already be up, so feel free to pop back to the channel and have a look. And we'll see you then.